Hello everyone. We are going to go over how to solve missing angles of any kind of figure in diagrams. Given expressions, some of them are tricky, some of them aren't. We're going to start with number 1, where they give you 2x minus 15 here, and we have y here. So we know that we should know that these are vertical angles and that they are congruent. So I'm going to start off 2x minus 15 equals y. But remember, you can't really solve an equation with two different variables. So in the question, they have to give you something else. And they do. It says if y equals 115, what is the value of x? So I'm going to go back to my equation and I'm going to just substitute for y the 115 that they give me. And then I'm going to add 15, just solving for x. This cancels out, and you have 2x equals 130. Then when you divide by 2 on both sides, you get x equals 65, and that is your answer. It is 65. X is equals 65. They don't want the you to substitute in and get the actual angle measures, so they just want the value of x, and we did get the value of x. So here are some parallel lines, and it says create an equation that you can solve for all missing angles. So you could basically say, okay, we're looking at where the expressions are within the parallel lines. So we have 3n plus 16 right here, and that's happens to be an acute angle. And then we have 5n plus 4 in another acute angle. So we're going to set them, if you're thinking acute and acute, yes, they are the same. So that means they are congruent. So you set them equal to each other. Remember, these are not supplementary unless it's one acute and one obtuse. So you're setting them equal to each other, and then it says, what is the value of n? So I'm going to rewrite that equation right down here because I'm going to have to solve for n. Whenever you have n's on both sides, remember, you can subtract the n and subtract the n on both sides. Get the n's together first. Don't try to get the numbers together first. This cancels. You have 16 equals 2n plus 4. Then you have to isolate the variable by subtracting 4 on both sides. We are going to subtract that 4 on both sides, and the 4's cancel on the right side. And 16 minus 4 is 12 equals 2n. Then you divide by 2, and n equals 6. So it says find the measure of angle 1, and it says what is the value of n? N equals 6. So you answered that, but you have to find the measure of angle 1 now. Angle 1 is right here. So you could do, that's an obtuse angle. This is acute, this is acute. So I'm going to just substitute into 3n. And instead of n, I'm going to put the 6 plus 16. In my calculator, I'm going to go 3 times 6 plus 16. And I'm going to enter it, and that's 34 degrees. So this part right here is 34 degrees, but that is not what I want to solve for. I want to solve for 1. I know that the angle here and here make supplementary angles, and this equals 180 degrees because it's part of that straight line that we're talking about. So anytime that we have a straight line, we put 180 on the page minus the 34. You grab your calculator again and do 180 minus 34. And you have 146. And this does make sense, though, that angle 1 is 146, because look how large it is. It's an obtuse angle. It should be much greater than 90, and it is. It's 146 degrees. It makes a lot of sense. What is the measure of angle 1? So if you're writing that down on a test, it's M. The measure of angle 1 equals 146. And put the degree symbol on there too. All right, so number 3, just a word problem. Angles A and B are corresponding angles. Remember, corresponding angles are congruent to each other, formed by two parallel lines cut by a transversal. Measure of angle A equals 4x, and the measure of angle B equals 3x plus 7. Find the value of x by creating an equation using the two given expressions. Since we know they are corresponding angles, they are congruent. Congruent means equal to each other. So we have this 4x. We're going to put the 4x on the page. Equals 3x plus 7. Because remember, they are congruent angles. So then we just go ahead and solve. This cancels. X equals 7. Find the value of x. X equals 7. And that is it for number 3. Taking a look at this one right here, again, parallel lines. It says determine the values of x and y. All right, so determine the values of x and y. This is a little bit of a tricky question because they want the value of x and they want the value of y. So if you're looking at this part right here and this, well, this is an x, this has a y. And we said you really can't solve anything with two different variables right now. So that's not what I want to do. But we could create an equation with the same variable. They give you a y down here, and they give you a 3y plus 28. You have to ask yourself, what's the relationship between those two? If I were to create an equation, how would I, what would I do? Would I set them equal to each other, or are these angles supplementary? Are they equal to 180 if you add them together? These are equal to 180 because this is, again, an obtuse angle, and this is an acute angle. If you have one obtuse and one acute, yes, you set them equal to 180 because they're supplementary angles. Supplementary angles are not equal to each other, so I'm going to put 3y plus 28 plus y equals 180. And now we are going to go ahead and solve for y. So we'll get y done. So we have 3y and y. So remember that this right here is a 1y. So 3y and y, 3y plus y is 4y. I'm going to bring down that plus 28, and I'm also going to bring down the 180. So obviously, solving this two-step equation requires you to use inverse operations. You subtract 28 on both sides, and then the 28s will cancel here. You get 4y equals, and just to make sure, you do 180 minus 28 on your calculator. Don't leave anything to chance. And it's 152. So we have 152, and then the last step is to divide by 4. Divide by 4, and you get y equals 152 divided by 4. So you could just press divide by 4 on your calculator just like that, and it is 38. So y is 38. So you can go down here and say, okay, I have my answer for y. It is 38. I'm going to go back up. We still have to determine the measure of x. So we only have 38 there. So how do we get, if we have y, how are we going to get x? So if you're guessing that you have to substitute, you do. And a lot of the times that they will give you a question where they have you solve for x, and then they have you solve for a different angle. In this case, y equals 38, so I know this is 38 degrees. And I also know that I could substitute my y in here, 38, 3 times 38 plus 28. So if I have my calculator, I have 3 times 38 plus 28. And I have 142 that comes up. And so this is 142 degrees. And it makes sense because that is such an obtuse angle. It's a large angle, so you know that it is way above 90. It's greater than 90. So right now it's 142. So what is x? Yes, x is vertical, right? So these are vertical angles. So x would have to be 142 degrees as well. And that is the only way you could solve it. So we're going to put 142 degrees, and that is it. All right, that was a little bit of a tricky question, but remember, this is the work. This is like an 8th grade state exam question that is really tricky. All right, thank you for watching, and I hope it helped.